When we hear about public transit in St. Louis, Missouri, a lot of people think it's not so great. But really, we're underappreciating something great with more potential than people realize. To understand the background behind this issue, we begin by examining the history of transportation right here in St. Louis. At the turn of the century, St. Louis had a state-of-the-art transportation system that ran on nearly every street and out into St. Louis County. So what happened? Why do we now have a bus system and only 47 short miles of light rail?
Just like they did in every city they ever went into. They destroyed an established public transit system that hadn't been built to meet the needs of the people.
So, we had a top-flight system, but what was it like to ride?
So the streetcars, we loved riding on them. And it was fun because they were big, there was plenty of room and all that.
We'd catch them at the same time every day. We'd know the conductor, and you'd meet people that you'd see every day. And you weren't afraid to talk to someone.
The streetcar was fast. It just jumped on chairs like that. It was so fast. And then the conductor, every time he would come to a crossing, he'd go clink, 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 clink.
Were the trolley cars you saw?
Oh, yeah, J-car, yeah. I was here.
They were around when we were younger.
That was the best form of transportation. Then somebody had the bright idea to take up all the tracks and get rid of all the trolleys. That's when the headache started.
So, who was that somebody, and what were they up to? That somebody was General Motors. They didn't like public transit. It made people buy less cars. And to find out what they were up to, we return to our former streetcar operator, Jim Holzer.
Basically, I'm bitter of what I've seen. Because if you take a fine tool Rolls Royce as an example, and give it to some shade tree mechanic and let him work on it, and he ruins it, you're going to be bitter about your rules. And that's what we had a Rolls Royce. We had the finest public transportation system, I think, of anywhere in the country. And in 10 years, that was just history.
A court hearing exposed the General Motors conspiracy and explained how St. Louis's public transit system was brought to its knees and disappeared for the greater part of the 20th century.
I don't want to outlaw the automobile. I'm not suggesting it isn't a convenient way of traveling. I am suggesting that it must be supplemented by rapid transit systems. And I cannot accept the argument that rapid transit systems broke down because of their complete inefficiency to serve the public, because the experience of Western Europe and Japan belies that argument. And finally, Senator, I must say, with great deference, that if it is true that the streetcar companies were breaking down of their own weight, why was it necessary for General Motors to join with Standard Oil and the tire companies to go in and buy the systems and tear up the tracks?
Over the years, the streetcar systems were replaced with GM-built, diesel-powered buses, and cars became the dominant form of transportation in St. Louis, as demonstrated by this 1940s automobile commercial.
Things are looking up for civilian car buyers, but don't rush out to get one now. This sample will not go into production for 2 or 3 months. When Detroit overnight...
The post-war years were an auto executive's dream. After 15 years of depression and war, returning GIs had money in their pockets and they were eager to get on with life. Federally subsidized mortgages favoring new homes encouraged an exodus from city to suburb.
These are the 36 men who built this house. Another day, another 40 houses.
And, of course, every new suburban home needed a brand new automobile. The final nail in the coffin for St. Louis's public transit system came with the interstate highways in the 1960s. As I-70 was laid through the heart of downtown St. Louis, streetcar lines could never again run on these crowded streets.
So has public transit in St. Louis lost all hope? The answer, as we found out, is no.
Having now studied the history of these prior solutions, we are now able to look at the issue of transit in a modern context, and as the years progressed, one of the fatal flaws of transit in St. Louis became apparent: traffic. Hundreds of millions of cars were built in the 20th century. They were sleek, they were fast, and they gave Americans the open road. But as time went on, their number one flaw became apparent: smog. Smog, along with crippling traffic jams, told America that an exclusively car-based society couldn't last. So the U.S. had to reconsider their approach to how they got around, and what they came up with was a resurgence in public transit. These changes, as well as the 1973 oil crisis, prompted St. Louis to begin exploring transportation options. What they came up with was Metro St. Louis. The true outcome was a convoluted set of federal and state organizations on both sides of the river. Amid growing public pressure, St. Louis began expanding their bus service to provide for more and more of the bi-state community, and plans were drawn up to implement light rail service, but they were lost with time. In the 1990s, as traffic jams created nightly headaches, the Metrolink Railroad was rushed into service. But this only served two corridors, a northern and a central. Construction began in 1990, and the grand opening was on July 31st, 1993. By 1994, the entire original system was operational, and expansions were completed in 98, 03, and 06. And now, in the present day, we began to examine our city's transit system. We decided to ride the metro to get a better idea of what transit was like in St. Louis and if there was room for improvement. So I'm going to go ahead and buy a one-day pass here. $7.50, and that'll get me anywhere on the metro. Hit accept. Now we just need some cash and we're ready to go. Here we go, we got a ticket.
Well, here I am waiting for the 258 bus to Clayton. It should be only a couple more minutes, and then it should be a comfortable ride. As we walked towards the station, we found a clean, well-lit, and heated area to wait for our train.
Departing, we quickly found that there was an extensive network of stations and tracks for which we could travel the St. Louis metro area.
On a hunch, we began to research the benefits of today's modern transit system.
We watched a recent Metro television ad to see which of those benefits they themselves were touting.
My name is Allison, and I'm a physics librarian at Washington University, and I ride Metro.
My name is Corey, and I just moved here from California.
The buses and the trains have always been clean and felt very safe.
It's easy to use. I've never seen it be late.
Their on-time record is outstanding.
I've yet to buy a car. I'm trying to avoid buying a car.
Quickly, we would like to point out that with rising gas prices, buying a car may not be for everyone, making the Metro a great alternative.
Part of what made me start was the high gas prices. I don't have to pay to park. I have less wear and tear on my car, and I use half the gas I used to use. I've saved probably $200 a month.
You see all different types of people riding the Metro. Young, old, business people, people going to culinary school. They just look for a cheaper, easier, safer way to get to work, that's all.
When I tell people I ride Metro every day, some of them are very surprised by that, but I explain to them that it's almost like a social atmosphere rather than the stress of commuting every day. Well, I have all these friends, and we don't actually exchange last names typically on the bus, and so I've got them all listed in my phone as last name of Bus. So I have Jan Bus and Debbie Bus and Sandy Bus. We stop sometimes on the way home and have dinner out. I think our last dinner out, there were 13 of us that got off the bus and went to dinner and caught a bus about an hour or 2 hours later. I thought it would be a time to sit and read and be quiet, but it's been a time for friendships instead.
It goes exactly where I need it to go, all the way downtown, to my work, to the shopping areas. It works pretty well.
I know I was very hesitant when I first started riding because I didn't know what to expect. The drivers have been very friendly, very willing to help new people figure out where they're going.
What I do is I just ride my bike from my apartment to the Bolivar stop. I ride the metro to the Clayton station. I get off, I ride it to work. It goes through all the little areas and parts of town that I need to go, so it works for me.
The thing I've missed most about not riding metro anymore would be the friendships I've made. Most of the people I ride with tend to be employees that work in the metro St. Louis area and don't want to have to pay to park in the city. So there's a lot of us that are in the same position, that are trying to help the environment and trying to save money at the same time.
Yeah, it's definitely good for the environment. It reduces the amount of automobiles that are on the road. I'm just trying to save some money and at the same time just do my part, that's all.
We wondered what could be done to improve the existing system. We'd find our answer half a world away.
Richard recently traveled to Japan, where he caught a glimpse of what transit might be like in St. Louis in 20 years.
Well, I really got a chance to see a lot of the latest advances up close, not the least of which was the Shinkansen, the bullet train. Now, this is something that's being proposed as a link between Chicago and St. Louis as part of a new, sort of expanded metro system. Now, Pat and I see this as a vital part of our transit future because people want to know that when they get on a train or board a bus, that system can take them farther and in a more efficient way than just sitting in a car.
One of the exciting features on the Japanese trains were the green cars. Green cars are basically an upgraded, airline-like class of service that is available on virtually every train in Japan. We foresee this as something that is a viable option for St. Louis in the future to attract business people who might otherwise be sitting in traffic on their way from the county to Clayton, or perhaps all the way downtown. On board, I found a number of modern conveniences that would help Metro reach a broader and even younger audience. There was Wi-Fi available for my laptop, and there was even beverage service that came through the train. Stepping off the bullet train and onto smaller local trains like the ones we have in St. Louis, I quickly found where Missouri must have got their model for their modern public transit system. It was almost identical. And then it hit me. There's nothing wrong with the trains and buses we have today. We just needed to find a way to spread the word and tell people, even those our own age, that we have this amazing transit system in our own backyard. But Japan has one crucial component that we in St. Louis are missing: a budget. So as I returned home to St. Louis, I began pondering how Pat and I might make the case for Metro to get more money.
We found a billboard at the entrance to Chesterfield Valley, and we felt that this was the ideal place for an advertisement targeting a demographic who doesn't realize how big St. Louis's public transit network is and how accessible it is, especially for them.
Our budget proposes giving $21,000 to local advertising agency Anchor Advertising. They specialize in mass advertising using both print ads and online social media services. $7,000 would be used to advertise in schools and universities, whereas $14,000 would be allocated to building a billboard in Chesterfield Valley, a high-density area with a lot of visibility.
Politicians' attention.
And here we